Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards, welcoming you to InFocus, a weekly program where we take a closer look at what's happening within and across the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, your government. The Ministry of Sustainable Development is wrapping up celebrations for its third annual Sustainability Month. This year's commemoration observed the theme MOSD, Leading into the Future. The observance highlights the ministry's leadership in advancing the Sustainable Island State agenda while promoting greater public participation in building a more resilient and sustainable nation. We'll take a closer look back at some of the major activities, such as the land distribution ceremonies and the Sustainability Symposium, and explore what it all means for you, the citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. With us today to discuss these efforts are the Honorable Dr. Joyelle Clarke, Minister responsible for Sustainable Development, and Sherilita Dore-Tyson, Permanent Secretary in the same ministry. Stay with us for InFocus, your government, your business.
If you haven't done it as yet, please do it today. Subscribe to our YouTube page at SKNIS Media for regular updates, live coverage, and even more information on your government. While you're at it, like, share, and interact with our Facebook and Instagram pages at SKNIS Media and SKNIS Info.
Welcome back to InFocus, and it's always my pleasure to have with us the Honorable Dr. Joyelle Clarke and her Permanent Secretary, Sherilita Dore-Tyson. Ladies, welcome back to InFocus.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ian.
And of course, thank you for having us.
Right, of course. And so, as we mentioned, October, which we're going out of, but the ministry had a month of activities, Sustainability Month. First off, let's start with that. What is the significance behind celebrating Sustainability Month?
Well, when we decided to do this, we had to decide exactly which month we wanted to do it. That's the first thing. When we got there in 2022, we had two departments celebrating significant days in October. The first one was the Department of Statistics. October 16th, I think, is Statistics Day. And they were having a day of celebrations. And then we had Urban Development Day as well in October. So I said, well, since we have two departments celebrating, why not make it a ministry-wide event? And that is how the idea began of the month of sustainability.
So the two of them are already fit into October, but there's so many activities already being commemorated. We have, of course, mental health, the seniors, the elderly persons in our society, tourism month as well. Yes. It's a bit crowded.
It is.
Are you concerned that the sustainability month would have been lost?
That was a discussion I had with the minister. The minister said those very same words to me. But I said, Minister, we will do it differently. And that is what we have done so far. And for the last 3 years, our celebrations have been quite successful, I can tell you. This year, we had new activities. We had staff development sessions. We had health and wellness activities. No other ministry celebrates, or no other department, or no other organization celebrates and go to the gym on Wednesday afternoons at 3 o'clock. So we had unique activities, and that is the success of the month of activities. We had public engagements as well. We had town hall meetings. We focus on, because we're focusing on statistics, this year we focus on the population census and what does it mean in terms of development. We felt we needed to drill deeper into the information, and so we had a town hall meeting in Basti, and we are planning another one in St. Paul's shortly.
And so that town hall meeting, I think it was very important that in terms of going out to the persons and gathering the information that is needed for the census, that you come back to them and tell them, this is what we're using your information for.
Exactly. Because they must know the output. And so we engaged the public. I was a bit late for it because I had another meeting. But when I got there, the session was in full bloom, and everybody afterwards were like, "Why didn't we do this before?" Right? So we said we're going to do another one in St. Paul's, and we are asking organizations like churches, you can invite us because there's something in that report for everybody. So we're asking organizations, we're asking groups, reach out to the ministry. We will come to you and we will present the results and the report from the national census.
During my intro, I mentioned the theme, MOSD, which of course is the acronym for the ministry, leading into the future. Comment to us the significance and how did that theme come about?
Well, that theme, it reflects our vision and it reflects our mission. The Ministry of Sustainable Development, we lead. We set the guideline for when the government decides where it's going to go. The Ministry of Sustainable Development takes the reins. We plan the programs, we do the sessions, we meet the people, we do the work for the government. So we are leading into the future in terms of future development.
All right. And Minister, you're quoted as a press release that promoted the Sustainability Month. And I'll just read it here. You said that it gives us a space to jointly identify innovative ways to improve our services and revitalize our mandate. End quote. What milestones have been achieved along this expectation to date?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And this is specific to the Sustainability Month. Right. One of our, perhaps my favorite engagement with the Sustainability Month is how we engage students. We did that.
Yes.
We had our career show 2 years ago, and we
Yes.
continue engaging students in terms of career opportunities,
Yes.
research opportunities in sustainable development.
Yes.
Because we're a public-facing ministry, especially around Sustainability Month, we have to show the general public that we're more than just lands.
Oh, yes.
And that in leading into the future, it's about foresight and planning, which is a critical mandate for our ministry, and that speaks to the PSIP Public Sector Investment Program and all the projects that have to be developed out of the cabinet agenda. Additionally, we have to plan along the National Development Planning Framework. Every ministry has to do so, and a key part of the activities for PSIP is finding the resources, partnering with economic development and investment, and then you have the physical planning unit that has to do all of the development planning, statistics, the data to match where we're going and support the budget. So for me, the key success is the engagement, not just with the general public, but specifically with our young persons who are showing interest in working in this field.
Right. And I was going to ask about that engagement with the young persons. How was the team received? What was the
Very
interaction like?
It was very well. We went to the primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions
Correct.
this year. The Department of Statistics, we visited, I think, almost all the schools, actually.
Yeah.
And the report was that the students were enthused. They wanted to know more about the ministry. And as the minister said, a lot of them didn't realize the ministry is not just about lands. We have 7 different departments in the ministry. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to expose the young people to the areas that we cover in the Ministry of Sustainable Development.
Now, of course, the focus of the Sustainability Month, the spotlighted ministry, as you mentioned, was the Statistics Department, or Department of Statistics, as it's really called. And
yes.
Tell us a bit about the rationale behind selecting that department to be showcased this year.
Well, this year is the 50th anniversary of Clarke Statistics. As a matter of fact, there's a meeting going on now in Curacao, which I'm going to join a little later in the week. And they are going to be focusing on how to make statistics more relatable, because everybody thinks that statistics is somewhere out there, but you have to make statistics part of your daily life. The ministry, the government must be data-led, and we must be ready and prepared to provide the information that the government needs, that the people need. So this is very significant for us this year, as the Caribbean is focusing on statistics.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so perhaps you can comment on how the regional milestone in terms of the statistics and observing, giving it more prominence, how it connects to local development.
Of course. And as PS mentioned, we have to follow CARICOM's lead, and this is a huge milestone for the region. And for St. Kitts and Nevis in particular, data, as was mentioned, is so critical.
Yes.
What is unfortunate is that we don't yet recognize how critical it is to our planning and how critical it is to collect good data with proper instruments, maintain good data, and have that available for statistics to support you. So for us, we want to work along the guidelines of CARICOM, which is focus on data. We can't plan, we can't move forward without key data. And so it was important for us to use this opportunity to highlight the work of the statistics department and also highlight some of the innovations and reshuffling that we're doing in the department to upskill, to strengthen our management team, and to ensure that other government departments are on board with us in terms of prioritizing statistics. I know one department, one ministry that has given us that charge is the Ministry of Finance.
Oh, yes.
Our work in statistics is so critical to the Ministry of Finance's output in terms of where we are with GDP per capita, where we are with all sorts of financial indicators. So we just have to do this to support the region and support the national agenda.
And it's interesting that you mention it and you're here this week, because last week we had persons from the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention, and the director of the secretariat, that would be Mrs. Karimo Byron Keynes. She spoke about statistics because, of course, I was seeking information in terms of research to demonstrate what cases are in relation to their field in terms of drug-related cases, treatment, etc. And she mentioned that there's more need for statistical data. Of course, it's a Caribbean-wide thing, and so it's interesting to hear that CARICOM is really taking that initiative to really improve on such. What is being done now on the local level, Minister? I just speak about having the support of the Ministry of Finance to strengthen the Department of Statistics. And I'm talking specifically about resources, systems, qualified personnel, their training, etc.
That's a good question. I'm going to transfer most of it to the permanent secretary, except to say leadership is oftentimes technical work and the people, management of people, management of technical outputs. And that's something that we recognize in the Department of Statistics, that we have all technical persons who can do their work, but we also needed to ensure that there is a team around this work. And we had the benefit and the privilege of having former directors of statistics come back to the department and provide consultative support to the department, which was very welcome.
Yes.
And it's our own initiative and our own push to restructure the organization so it responds more, it's more responsive, and has a much more modern approach to how we deal with statistics. When I was doing my research, the Department of Statistics is where I went for every single piece of data and to verify the data that I had also collected, and that's donkey years ago, not so long, but donkey years ago. And we still have this same interaction with students, with ministries, with organizations who need data, need to interface with the department, need to find it on the website, need to find it on Facebook, and have the better output. So we recognize this need from the public, and we are adjusting how we function to ensure that we meet these demands. But PS has a more intimate knowledge of all the things that we're doing to make it work at statistics.
All right, so PS, I'll just remind, when speaking specifically about systems, resources, and qualified or trained personnel.
Yeah, and let me tell you, we are having some challenges in that department at the moment. We recognize it cannot be business as usual in 2025. And so we are revamping, we are restructuring, and we are reorganizing. And it's from all levels. So let me use this opportunity and say, if there's anyone out there who's interested in statistics, you have the qualifications, there's a vacant position up for director. Please reach out to me as soon as possible, because we are looking for a director for that department. Along with that, we've had to engage former PSs to help us, because as you said, we play a very critical role in terms of decision making for many of the departments. So at this time, we had a challenge this year. We are working on it. We are reorganizing. We are seeking help, because we also recognize that we did not have the in-house capacities. So we sought regional help, and they've been coming on. We've been sending our officers for training, so that next year, starting January 2026, we have a newly reorganized, recently scaffolded Department of Statistics that is more public-friendly, that can respond to the public needs in a shorter, quicker time. So we are working on it. certainly there were challenges. So I accept the challenge that we are going to improve in 2026.
And that would include additional resources from the ministry. Of course, we're in the budget process.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That was a clear commitment from
Very
the
much so.
Ministry of Finance,
Very
as
much
well
so.
as the systems and the technology that we need to
Yes.
provide all the support to the public and to the ministries.
So how then, when all of this is completed, will the ministry make national data? And the minister spoke to her point when she was a student and doing research. How will the ministry make national data more accessible to the public? And that would include, as I mentioned, persons who are doing research, students, businesses, NGOs, even persons who are looking to make investment into the economy, whether they're
Yes.
locally or foreign based.
That's exactly, that's what I'm saying. So we need to make the Department of Statistics more public friendly, more accessible. And so that's why we are reorganizing the department. It cannot be business as usual for 2026, right?
So will you imagine a new platform where information can be collected? How will it work essentially?
That is part of it. We just got approval from finance to purchase software that will facilitate a speedier outcome. So that is part of what we're planning to do. Even this technical staff, we are training and retraining because we realize that they had to come forward as well in terms of how they do things. So it's a whole revamping of the department happening at this moment.
And I would imagine, Minister, that there is that engagement with the digitization unit, because of course there's a lot of work taking place in the background to digitize old records, and it's important that you don't have to go and search through files and folders everywhere. That as Mr. Carty, who is the head of the digital transformation unit, he was here recently on InFocus, and he spoke about the need to have to update stuff so that information can be more readily, easily accessed.
Correct. And this is a whole of government approach to digitalization and to having information readily available. And as Pierce mentioned, it starts with the technical staff, because one of the simplest challenges to solve, which we just took for granted, was data disaggregated by gender. A lot of departments collected data, but you couldn't tell if it was a man or female. And that we experience the reality. We have different experiences as women, as younger women, as older persons. And so the training of our staff so that they can then go and train different persons in the various sectors and ministries was critical. So while we want to have the public output readily available, stronger databases, quarterly digest, and information available at hand, we also recognize that we had to put out better information and quality information to the general public.
And data collection, Pierce?
Yes. Well, the new trend now is digital, and so that is where we're heading. So to reduce the number of face-to-face, because sometimes that takes time, right? So we're going to go, as a matter of fact, we're doing a survey very shortly, and it's going to be purely digital. So that is where we're going in terms of the Department of Statistics, creating digital platforms to collect information. So that is going to be more effective, it's going to be faster in terms of our response to the public.
Concerned that someone may be more inclined to not be as truthfully in terms of answering the questions because it's electronic and you don't have to look someone else in the eye?
That's true, but we trust our public. It's very important that the public develop trust in the ministry. So we trust the public will give us the correct information.
And
because they see what we are doing with the information. We always go back. We always will go back with the report. This is what you reported. This is what is the consequence. So people understand the significance of what we are doing.
And there's also the validation of the data too. So you can have data collected from one segment in one geographic area, and you can cross-reference that with other information to test the validity, and that's where the statistics officers would say we need to get this percentage sample to ensure it's a truthful sample. And then we can also go back with the community meetings, help us verify that this information we collected is truly representative of what the community feels and the challenges that you are having. And I think one of our upcoming surveys through both ministries, environment, constituency empowerment, and sustainable development is our CISA Connects, but we'll talk about that later.
Right,
Yes.
right, okay, all right. And so, as you mentioned, that interaction with the community is very important.
Yes, it's very important that you build the trust with the community.
And so we're going to take our first break now and move into another activity that took place under the months, and that will be, Minister, I know something that you have really been leading the project on, and that would be regularizing land for persons who've been squatting on government land. And so we'll talk about that in just a minute. Stay with us, viewers and listeners. We'll be right back with more In Focus.
And one of the things that has been happening is that a lot of you would approach to get development done, more development, to get a house built, to get electricity to your home, to get water to your home. And sometimes they would ask you, well, where is your land paper? And unfortunately, nada. Sometimes nothing to show. And as a result, you have challenges in developing yourselves, your family, and the community. And that is why I am here tonight. We have a long history. We are people of history. We not just come. And therefore, we have to make sure that we correct what was wrong and to give ownership of the land to the people who deserve the ownership. And the land is free. And the reason why it's free is because you don't put in all the work to own the land. You don't pay for the land. So we can't come and charge you for the land again. You've been living here for hundreds of years. You developed the land. So why should we charge you for something you don't work for and don't put in the money for? Your great-grandmothers, grandfathers, and your forefathers, they received nothing. But we are going to correct that tonight. So what they have put in, you will inherit.
Welcome back to In Focus. We continue our discussion with officials from the Ministry of Sustainable Development. That will be the Honorable Dr. Joyelle Clarke, who is the Minister, and the Permanent Secretary, Sherilita Dore-Tyson. Minister, as I mentioned, Sustainability Month, and one of the prominent activities was the Land Initiative. And LAND stands for Land Allocation, Normalization, and Distribution. Tell us about this initiative.
Oh, I'm so happy to speak about this, even though it was 2 full years of very hard work. And I had to look at directors in their face and say, let's push, and not just from our ministry, but from several ministries. But thankfully, we are here, and we distributed land to 3 squatter settlements, and we regularized the occupation of those lands, and that's in Lagreet, Bastille, New Amsterdam, St. Paul's, and Upper Monkey Hill. And it was a labor of love, pun intended. And I think in Lagreet we distributed 68 lots, New Amsterdam 25, and Upper Monkey Hill we had 38, which is just part 2 of 2 parts of distribution. But what I would say about it is that land is so critical, and I'm going back to Papa Bradshaw and what he did for nationalization of land for Kittitians and what it means for our own empowerment. The right to access land, especially lands that you've been living on for over 40 years, in the case of Lagreet in particular, there's no government that can tell you that the land isn't yours. And I'm saying this to say that we took great pains to ensure that the process was done properly, inclusively, and collaboratively with the people of these communities, and with the Land Registry Department, in particular the Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs, as well as the Governor General's Office, Inland Revenue Department, Ministry of Finance, and of course a very supportive cabinet to get us to the point. And last week when we did the regularization, you could see there was a positive buzz across the Federation, across St. Kitts. People felt good for these new landowners.
And it's the collaboration with all these ministries that you just mentioned and departments. How did that come about? And is that something like a model that we can look forward to seeing more of?
Well, of course, collaboration is the only model to follow for empowering people. But I think the PS would better explain that process in terms of what happens when you pay for or access a piece of land? Some people think it's only sustainable development. We are critical to the process, but there's so many steps involved to getting this process done, and we sped up that process by months to make sure these persons had access to their land, and it's just something that for our administration would be one of the biggest accomplishments. Yes.
Well, Ian, let me just say it was months and months of long nights and hard work and working 7 days per week because it was really difficult to get this done. When someone purchases land from the ministry, when we get notice from the Treasury, after you would have gotten your offer letter and your payment, your letters from the ministry, you go to the Treasury, you make your payments. It doesn't end there. You now have to go and legalize the process. And that is where the Governor General's office, that's where the legal department, that's where the land registry comes in. That's where inland revenue, because you have to pay the transfer tax. So all of this is part of the process of ownership. And as the minister said, it normally takes a bit of time, but with a wave of a magic wand, we got it done in a very short time because the minister was determined that we were going to get this done. So we just put our fingers in, put our toes in as well, because it really was like, an all-encompassing activity, and we just did what we had to do. So we got it done.
Minister, why was this such a priority for the government?
It was because we had, for the folks in Lagreet in particular, who were previously offered COTs that were incomplete and not valid, it was a matter of correcting wrongs and a matter of injustice that needed to be corrected.
And COTs, was that certificate of title?
Certificate of title. Now, you could offer someone a certificate of title when you have you've done the survey,
Yes.
right, PS, and you get this certificate. But if it's not signed and stamped,
The actual certificate of title.
right.
The actual certificate
Right.
can only be gotten from the Registry of Lands. That is when you have completed the process, you have made the payments, everything has been done, and then they issue you your COT. That is where the power lies. The land is yours.
And they didn't have that. So for 7+ years, some may have mistakenly felt that what was offered to them then was sufficient for them to go to the bank to access a mortgage.
Right, and that
They couldn't do anything with it because
the land was not
it
theirs.
wasn't theirs, and we needed to correct that wrong. And in fact, the MP for Constituency 3, Minister Conwis Maynard, made a commitment to the people of Lagreet. And he made a commitment to cabinet that we had to correct that injustice. And we did it. And of course, in similar vein, our Prime Minister and MP for number 8 and Dr. Douglas, the MP for number 6, said there are other injustices to be corrected, especially for the people of Amsterdam. We have another area, New Pasture in Sadlers. Years they have lived on these lands and have not been able to access the certificate and of title, and empowerment is also about justice, and we recognize that we couldn't let another couple months pass without fixing this problem. So we pushed to it, and we started in 2023 with the consultation at Lagreet at the Ministry of Agriculture, and the persons from that community have been there with us day in, day out, and making sure this was done properly. For them, it was a matter of justice.
And in addition to what my minister said, what I found most interesting during all the hard work and all the stresses and all the processes was that people were telling you, I've lived on this land for 40+ years. As a matter of fact, we had a family in St. Peter's, and they could have chased their family connections to the land for over 100 years. So their grandmother, great-great-great lived the same place, but they never owned the land. And so when their names, the family name was called, and you saw the tears, you felt the pain. You felt the pain. So for them, it was like finally an accomplishment. They own the land now. Yes.
And I think it's important for us to correct this information that was trying to attach itself to this process. What happened whenever it happened under the previous administration was fake. It wasn't real, and people couldn't go anywhere with the paper. And we had to correct that. And not only for the 68 persons in Lagreet, but for the additional 25 and 38. And we've made a commitment to regularize the other squatter settlements. Not because of any political gain, but the gain of empowering the people of St. Kitts, which should be and ought to be the only motivation for your work service. So nobody can say it was done before. it was never correct and they could do nothing. The paper has no value.
No value.
No value.
It's just a printed certificate on your computer. That doesn't give you
no
land.
value. But what our residents now have, valuable, real, legit. And importantly, we didn't offer them any payment price. Previously, they were offered to pay, even for persons in Upper Monkey Hill who have been there for over 100 years. How can you ask someone to pay? The legislation governing this country prevents you from paying for a lot once you've lived on it over 30 years, the freehold village license.
Yes.
So even that was crazy that they could be so unconstitutional in their approach. And we also made special arrangements with the Inland Revenue Department for their...
the transfer tax. And the families now, they have a whole year to pay the transfer tax, which is just 6%. So say the land costs about, say, 6,000. If we were to purchase it, all we do is 6% of that, because the land, we valued it at $2. So it will be 6% of what the total value is. And you have an entire year to pay that. But I must say that by the next day, people had gone and paid their transfer tax, even though we told them you have a whole year. And then people came to the office on Thursday. And I'm going to make a plug to mention that we are still open on Thursday afternoons to the public. If you have any land matter, you come to the ministry. We try our very best sources. Thursday afternoon, it was almost like a carnival troupe. We had so many people coming, some just to say thank you, some to show you that they paid. I mean, everybody had a reason to come and show you something. People were really overjoyed. People feel empowered. People telling you, think is now I want to fix a house, the thing is now I want to, but they did not have the collateral. Now you have the ownership. That is where the power comes. The collateral, you can go to the bank and say, I now own this land. My name is on the COT. Could I get a loan too? Or you can go to TDC. I now need some blocks. My daughter is going. My son is going. I need some space. Could you allow me? And you have that as your collateral. So that is where the power is. Yes.
You just answered a whole series of questions.
But you are going to have to allow me to say something, Ian, because I'm going to mention that we have distributed 400 new lots up to September 2025. And I am going to make an appeal to the public, those of you who got the privilege of owning lands for 2025 and before, please take your happy self down to the Treasury. That is where the process begins. You get your letter, you got your pricing letter, you came, you signed your contract, and you were happy and you went down the stairs. It doesn't end there. You now need to take that letter and go to the Treasury and make your payment. Because it is when you pay, you own. We have people coming like 10 years, they got a piece of land 10 years ago, and the land is not even there. You can't wait. You can't let the time pass. The letter specifically tells you you have X amount of time to make your down payment. Please, I know you appreciate the offer that you got. Take it now and go to the Treasury and make your payments for your land. Because, trust me, we have a lot more people. The demand is so great that you can't afford to sit down and let this opportunity pass and not pay for your land. You can't afford it.
Let me just come back to that part that you mentioned. If you fail to pay for the land, you don't own the land.
No. Because it's not yours. You haven't gone to the Treasury.
And how long? You said that there's a specified period that they would have to pay for the land.
Yes.
So if you make a down payment, when does the land become yours? Is it at
After
the end?
payment.
Total payment?
Yes. And what we did, the minister guided me, the cabinet guided me when we got there and we made this decision. You have 7 years in total to pay for your land. 7 long years. And so we make it affordable. You pay in installments. The letter tells you this is how much you will pay per month. And we would have calculated it based on the cost of the land and your affordability. So just go right ahead and make your payments so that you can own your certificate as well. We want everybody to have that feeling of ownership, land ownership, because land ownership is wealth. Land ownership is power. So that is what we are trying to do. That's what the government's intention and mandate is, to ensure land ownership. So you can't get a letter from me and just feel, well, that is it. No, you have to take your happy self down to the Treasury and make the payments. You can do it weekly, you can do it monthly, you can do it by cash, you can do it by check. And next year, we are working on card payments, because we realize that everybody is flashing a card. So that is where we're heading. So you can just go to the Treasury, flip out your green card or your black card, and make your payments. So we're encouraging everyone to please make your payments for your land.
And if you fail to pay within the 7-year period?
Then you will have a call from me. So we can have a conversation, because the time would have expired. This is like a contract. You have a contract, and you would expect that just like how I kept my part of the bargain, providing the land, doing everything, you must keep your part of the bargain as well for the contract to be valid. So, yes, we're encouraging everyone to please pay for your lands.
Okay. Let me come back to the squatters situation now, because as I mentioned, you shared quite a bit yourself and the minister as well too, and I can see the passion and the excitement that really was reflected at the ceremony there. Minister, you mentioned that there are also areas that are under consideration for this initiative.
Yeah, the pasture in Sadlers,
yes,
and the additional
the abbots,
right?
I think 11 persons in the abbots. They have not yet received their certificate, and just like those in St. Paul's, just like those in Lagui, they have been there for umpteen years living on the land, and so we are going to do that very early in 2026, and we're going to do Sadlers as well. But after this, we are not doing any more settlements, any more squatters. So I don't want anyone to think that they can go and just squat somewhere and wait gloriously until the government says, oh, you know what? No, this is it.
And I think it's important to speak at this moment to not only persons who squat residentially, but there are persons who take up land commercially without completing their payments. There are persons who we assign, let's say, 1 to 10 acres, and then they encroach on government's land by many more acres and refuse to pay. The land doesn't automatically become yours. Additionally, when it comes to squatting in areas that we cannot regularize, like gut sides and vulnerable areas and on beaches, the government can't support it because the NCPA, which will be updated on Friday, restricts what government can do. So we also want to encourage not just the residential owners or occupants of lots, but persons on commercial land or farmers on sustainable lands, that when you decide to ply your trade on lands not properly assigned, there will come a time when the government needs to reassign you. And we do so collaboratively. We're not a government that just pushes you away. We have conversation, we write to you, we talk to you, and we get the relevant stakeholders and ministries to provide support for your relocation. But we want to discourage that sort of squatting. It becomes more and more problematic for all stakeholders.
And let me just mention, in addition to what the minister said, I know there's been a lot of talk about it on Facebook, and people are talking about, they want to take away farmers' lands. We have to remember there's another side to the story, that people would have already bought these lands. We have people who would have gone to the bank, and they are paying mortgages, and they cannot build. So there's also another side to the story. Those lands are already owned. You went and started a farm. You didn't ask any questions. And that is why we tell all farmers who come to us, go to the Ministry of Agriculture, because we have designated lands for designated purposes. So we have lands for residential purposes. We have land for commercial purposes. We have land for farming. Go to the relevant ministry. If you're into farming, go to agriculture. When they come to me, I say, go to agriculture. We have the conversation from the PS to the PS level. We try to assist as best as we can. But you can't just go and just take up land and feel, well, that is it, because you're providing potatoes that the government should allow you to take the people's land. It's unfair. It's very, very unfair to the actual landowners. These people, they're paying mortgages, they're paying loans, and you're just occupying their land just like that. So it's not fair.
Specifically, we have some problematic areas in Cabbage Street in particular. We have about 384 potential homeowners who are affected by farming there. On Borio, in Lodge, in Borio, especially along the Borio main road heading into Molyneux. We have another farmer who is preventing about 200 plus homeowners. So you can imagine some of our Thursday, and in Racecourse also, we have some farmers who are also, in the same space that we're intending to build houses under our current housing program. So with this dichotomy between agriculture for food security and housing for your livelihood security, we have to find a balance. And in this case, one farmer cannot prevent 384 occupants from building. And I think 2 Thursdays ago, we had someone who came to the land meeting in tears. I have an approval from the bank. My plans have been done. Planning won't give me full approval because they know that there is a farmer occupying the land, and I want to start my life. And how do I say, as a Minister of Sustainable Development, to a young person who wants to construct that, oh, you can't go because there's someone on sustainable lands, illegally. So we've found a balance, and what we did yesterday in our sustainability symposium, we had a cross-table conversation with the Ministry of Agriculture, NHC, Architects Institute, farm, just everybody, like, what's the best approach to this land challenge? And we established a task force of technical persons who will come back right here on this show, who will engage the general public about the best way to deal with this. And of course, it's all about systems and processes that you mentioned. Now, we can't tell a farmer today to move tomorrow. No. We won't do that. No. And we can't tell a farmer to move without saying where you're going. Agriculture provides that information. And we've gone as far as ensuring that agriculture provides you the fencing and the tools and equipment, plowing your land, land preparation for the next site.
Or some of it.
Or what they can rightfully provide and ensure that you can transition. And there's always a long window that the farmer knows that you don't put any more investment in this particular field, because the next step is for sustainable to prepare the land for housing construction. And we want the general public to understand that it's a partnership. We're not disempowering anyone or trying to prevent anyone from having a livelihood, but at the same time, can you imagine 20 families are ready to construct and borrow that development, and they can't move forward? That's 20 contractors who could have a job, who could employ 50 workers, and they can't. So you're also stifling the economy there when you decide as a farmer you're going to just keep. And there are some cases where farmers have been compensated for the significant investments in their lot, but still continued to, carry out their trade in the area. So noting all of this, we're saying now that before the year's end, Sustainable would have to really work collaboratively with these farmers for the relocation, so that the 384 plus houses in Cabbage Tree and the 200 plus in Lodge and Molyneux can move forward. And it's not just houses, it's houses and commercial development. It's a lot of economic activity that can be generated outside of just the activity as it relates to farming. So we want to do it right, do it together.
Is there a role for the persons who own the land to take this to the court?
We have a few of those cases. As a matter of fact, I always say I'm probably the most
litigated PS.
The most legally lettered PS. I mean, you have stacks and stacks of letters from lawyers. For people, I read banking institutions calling non-stop. We are ready. The loan has been financed. The person, it's almost time for the person to start to pay. You have people paying rent. And paying mortgage. And the land is tied up.
It's totally unfair. It's totally
really
unfair.
Unfortunate. When you hear the farmers talking, yes, the farming community, we respect you. We respect the role that agriculture plays in our economy. But there's another side to it. It's not just what they are saying. There's another side. There are other people who are suffering. There are other families who would have had their plans deterred because you put a crop of potatoes on their land. When you know that the land is not yours. And as soon as you see the potato almost ready to reap, you put in it because you want to keep the land. It's unfair to the other side.
And one of the first lessons when I had my whole stint as a teacher, which I love very much, in geography with the students at Cairn High School, was on the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And one of the first lessons was you present to the students a plot of land and you describe the land and you say, what should this land be used for? Should it be agriculture? Should it be housing? Should it be recreational? Should it be commercial? And it's a lesson which teaches the students that every piece of land can have a user conflict or user solution, or can have multiple uses. And we recognize that it's easier for farmers to occupy the sustainable lands because they're close to the housing projects. It's for security, less transportation, but it must always be remembered that it is a temporary occupation, and at some point the more demanding conflict for that area, because it's designated as housing, will come. And it's important to reference again the work of the physical planning and our national physical development planning framework, every piece of land in St. Kitts is zoned. We know what every piece of land is for. So there is no conflict when it comes to what's commercial, what's residential, what's agricultural, what's zoned for conservation. So we don't just randomly say, this land has to be for housing. It's based on soil testing, a lot of technical work, the terrain, etc. And there are times when we have to do rezoning exercises, but everything that's determined as to be developed comes from the physical planning work and the NDPF, which National Physical Development Plan, which has been approved. So we really want our stakeholders to work with us and understand that we want to protect all people's rights, rights of farmers and rights of landowners. But it's too difficult to tell almost 600 people you cannot construct.
We're out of time for this segment. I let it run a bit over because there are clearly a lot of issues, and this could have been an entire show by itself.
Maybe
it will be.
Some additional questions that popped to mind, but I'm going to have to end this segment and move on to our next, which would have been the symposium.
Yeah,
of course,
but I've been talking about it.
Yes, all right. So we're going to take our final break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more In Focus.
If you haven't done it as yet, please do it today. Subscribe to our YouTube page at SKNIS Media for regular updates, live coverage, and even more information on your government. While you're at it, like, share, and interact with our Facebook and Instagram pages at SKNIS Media and SKNIS Info.
Welcome back to In Focus as we prepare to wrap up our conversation with the Minister responsible for Sustainable Development, the Honorable Dr. Joyelle Clarke, and Permanent Secretary within the same ministry, Sherilita Dore-Tyson. Minister, as mentioned, there was a sustainability symposium that was held on Tuesday. Let's try and say that 3 times fast. What were the aims of the symposium?
So this symposium was, of course, a critical part of our Sustainability Month celebration, but we did that to bring our stakeholders together, but more so the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Sustainable Development. We have key departments that are doing tremendous work, critical work, and need to share. So it's a knowledge sharing exercise as well as a learning opportunity for our department to understand what we're doing along the lines of our National Development Planning Framework, as well as our goals towards a sustainable island state, which is completely linked to the National Development Planning Framework.
Certainly. It's also linked to the SDG.
Correct.
11 and the CISA Pillar 5.
Yes, we focus on sustainable settlements, land, housing.
Right. All right. And so the participants, who would have participated in this symposium?
So all the
departments.
Yes.
All the departments.
All the departments.
The Ministry of Sustainable Development and all the departments in the minister's other ministry, which is the Ministry of Environment.
I think it's National Institute of Architects for the bill that the Architects Registration Board bill and amendment bill that we're passing on Friday.
And our boards as well, members of our boards, we also brought them in. It was like coming together of all the aspects, all the different parts of the ministries. And, we are wide and deep because we have the planning board, we have the survey board, everything, it's all parts. So we brought everybody together. And even though we're orbiting, we're doing our different things, we still have to synchronize to make sure that we are still achieving the goals and objectives of the ministry.
So let's talk a bit about these policy documents that were looked at, and of course the National Assembly will take up the NCEM bill, Minister. There's going to be also debate on the Architect Registrations Act, and of course we know the CISA framework, CISA of course being Sustainable Island State Agenda. Tell us a bit about the bill, the act, and also the framework.
Right, and another thing that we did there at the symposium was the National Development Planning Framework. The Ministry of Economic Development was also part of the symposium, as well as Royal Bastia Valley National Park design. So the architects and designers were also part of the symposium. So we brought got everybody who is related to land in some way to talk. Now, as it relates to the NC, woo, I'm so excited about that bill. I am labor of love again, but it's been more than 4 years plus. I think 2019 is when the work started.
What does it stand for, NC?
National Conservation Environmental Management Act. It's currently the NCPA, but it's being upgraded to the NCMA, which is a regional act that we need to align with. But the NCPA was 1989, I think, and we really need to upgrade it because it brings in line everything that in terms of conservation, protection, the institutional frameworks that we're working, legal and institutional framework, sustainable management of the environment, natural resources, and of course it modernizes environmental governance and brings in sustainability at its core. So when we pass this bill on Friday, it's going to be clear who's the governing authority, the competent authority, the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis having its semi-autonomy to do certain things, the collaboration that's required between the Department of Marine Resources and the Ministry of Environment in terms of declaration of protected areas in particular. And it also strategically allows us to look at how we think of sustainable development, how we deal with watershed management, how the bill guides us in dealing with issues such as persons occupying beaches, which is constitutionally, you cannot, and government cannot support it. So it gives the ministry more legislative authority to decide on critical issues. And what's important about NCM is that the consultation has been ongoing. Importantly, it will also establish the St. Kitts, the St. Mary's Man and the Biosphere Reserve as an area of special interest, which is brand new to the bill. And it's something that we really welcome. SMBR, Man and the Biosphere, has been under the arms of UNESCO with whose current leadership is Ambassador Dore, and because of the relationship with UNESCO and Environment and Man and the Biosphere with Mrs. Telka Wallace, we're now able to have the Man and the Biosphere under the Ministry of Environment, which is so critical. Another change that we're going to observe is the National Trust, which is currently managed by the Ministry of Sustainable Development, but according to the Act, it falls under the Ministry of Environment. One last thing I want to mention about NCM is how it protects our environmental and historic resources in particular. I know there's a lot of conversation about Fort Thomas and its own historic relevance and how it's now part of a development project, but the planning board verified for us that unfortunately it's not listed as one of the historic sites that's protected like Brimstone Hill. And so this is something that we can work to correct with our partners and with the new developers. So that's a missed opportunity, but can still be corrected. With regards to the architects registration board and that bill that's governing it, this was passed in 2010, but the board was never enacted. And so what we have to do now is correct some of the missing gaps in the legislation, but recognize if we're going to have sustainable settlements, we need legislation governing this. That's what the bill basically speaks to. Registering architects, registering draftsmen, registering companies so that there could be quality control and standards within the field. And this is a key part of the Ministry of Sustainable's mandate in terms of the planning board and now the architects registration board, along with the survey board. The CISA framework, as we mentioned, is aligned to the National Development Planning Framework, and this is what every ministry, this guides us into 2037. Before that, we had I can't remember the document PS, but it was our transition strategy out of sugar while in the previous Labour administration, and then there wasn't any new document since, but now we do have the NDPF. That first document told us what we need to do to move our economy from a sugar economy to a multi-services-based economy. Now it's saying, how do you move here to a climate-resilient and sustainable economy, and how does every sector do it? And that's where the vision for CISA is connected to it, because it's about the sustainable development goals. So these are the critical conversations we're having, as well as that conversation on the agriculture sustainable challenge and the opportunities to correct this to empower both farmers and homeowners.
And having policy documents really outlines who is responsible for what, so everyone knows what they're working towards and what the responsibilities are.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned the term. I have to ask this before. You said a person, you cannot occupy the beach. What does that mean? Define that. What does that mean?
Okay, I don't even have I would love to go to the NCPA legislation, but the beaches are there. You can't purchase a beach in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's public property and must maintain for public access. But you also cannot occupy in terms of establish any commercial activity on a beach, right? Now, I would have to find the relevant legislation because it's just not coming to mind. But the NCPA current act speaks to this particular issue, so that government cannot authorize, endorse commercial activity on what qualifies as a beach. Now, there are our commercial strip, but it's on the beach, and the beach is a special designated area. So that's also something that we're going to define very clearly in our presentation on Friday, so that people understand where the beach starts and ends and where you can have your trade, and why government has every authority to say to you, you're occupying a beach, you have to move, and the likes.
Right, okay. And we move quickly because there's about 4 minutes left in our program. And it was mentioned earlier, a survey, the CISA Connect survey. What's that about?
Right, so the CISA Connect survey is part of our ongoing public engagement with the Sustainable Island State Agenda. What we realize is that even though we speak about CISA, we're government practitioners, we're very intimate with the information. So for us, we understand the agenda, but it goes nowhere if the public doesn't understand. And so we've been talking about CISA for some 2.5 years. So right now, it's the prime time to do an engagement survey. Evaluate where you. It's like our monitoring and evaluation. And of course, this cannot be done without the Department of Statistics, who is co-leading this survey with the Department of Constituency Empowerment. We're coming out to ask you if you understand sustainability, the Sustainable Island State Agenda, the National Planning Framework, and also if what we're talking about connects with you. Does it hit home? Does it connect to your pocket, to your livelihood? What do you want to hear? And how much do you care about the environment? I will say this knowing that when we had our budget consultation last week, we had a presentation on the circular economy and about garbage and etc. etc. It's never really a sexy topic. Like it's not the topic that people can call in and be raw about and talk about. But at some point, environment and sustainability is going to get there, and it's going to get there beyond just land. It's going to be. This is critical for the survival of St. Kitts and Nevis, the people, St. Kitts and Nevis, the environment.
And just to mention that the survey takes place from the 28th of October to the 30th of November. So the Department of Statistics will be reaching out to you. We have our sections that people we're going to contact. They will give you a call. Remember, it's digital. It's digital, yes. We are using that platform. So they're going to be reaching out to you for information. We're going to be looking at young people. We're going to be looking at the general public. We're going to be looking at the public sector. Please respond. It's important to
respond honestly.
Yes.
Because you can give a response, but try to reflect. All right, and so expectations from that Connect survey, Minister, what are you hoping to determine?
Guidance. We want to know what the public thinks. So while I expect that there will be some guidance saying, define CISA in layman's term, or make it connect to us in terms of what we're doing. So we look forward to that. But it's really to ensure the public is on the same page with us. And if the public isn't, we redefine, we reorient, and we move forward. And that's the brilliance of collecting good data and working with the Department of Statistics and Constituency Empowerment on this.
And remember, Ian, that CISA is homegrown. It's our thing. And that's what we want to do. We want to connect the public to the concept. It's not a their thing, it's ours. Right, so that's what the survey will show. So we will find out the weaknesses, fix it, and we go back to you. This is what we realize. This is why we realize this shortcoming here. We are going to fix this aspect. So it's a St. Kitts thing. It's our thing.
St. Kitts and Nevis, right?
Yes, St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes.
Okay. So final comments?
Well, my final comment is going to have to be on lands. I'm going to make another appeal to the public. Please pay, because that is really my challenge.
Let me encourage you to look directly into the camera there.
At the end of the year, I have to give the Cabinet and Ministry of Finance an account for the lands that I sold. And that is going to have to be in some sort of dollar value. So I'm appealing to the public, those of you who got your letters, please take your happy self down to the Treasury and make your payments for your lands. We don't want to revoke, so please do the right thing. Pay and own.
Minister?
And my final appeal to the public is we have to recognize that we all want to survive here in St. Kitts and Nevis, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a beach owner, whether you are a potential household owner. And there are guidelines and zoning guidelines and legislative guidelines which determine how and who accesses what lot. And we want to ask this is a general appeal to all stakeholders that the Ministry of Sustainable Development has to regularize commercial lands, agricultural lands, and residential lands. And we want your partnership and your support. We're not going to disempower anyone, but at some point we have to correct wrongs. And lastly, a big thank you to all of the stakeholders who helped us with our land regularization. Indeed. The communities, the Land Registry, Ministry of Justice, Inland Revenue, Ministry of Finance, the Cabinet, the MPs, and the Governor General's office, and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. It was a great feeling, and we want to do that again with other development projects. Thank you.
And we certainly would have to have you here on InFocus again. Of course, there's so much that we can talk about. As I mentioned, there's a lot to speak about. Of course, there's the Conference of Parties coming up as well, to which St. Kitts and Nevis will be represented at. So we look forward to having you back in sometime in the very future.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We'd like to thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us for this edition. We trust that you will join us next week at the same place, at the same time, for another edition of InFocus. Remember, it's your government, your business. I'm Ian Richards.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.